Well, I've got a couple minutes past the hour, and it looks like the number of folks trickling in is starting to slow down a little bit. So what do you say we go ahead and get started? 8A Stars 3 Industry Partners, I'd like to say hello and welcome you to the FY25 8A Stars 3 Program Management Review. My name is Herman Lyons, and I have the privilege of being the 8A Stars 3 Program Manager. Today's PMR, or Program Management Review, is an opportunity for the 8A Stars 3 team to share some information and discuss important topics with our industry partners. Before we get started, I've got a few administrative announcements. The first thing is that your attendance and your time on call is being captured by Zoom using your contract number and email address. Everyone is on mute-only mode due to the large number of participants and to eliminate interruptions. Please use the Q&A pod to ask any questions that you might have. We've got closed captioning enabled, and we received just 2 last-minute questions in advance of our PMR. But as I mentioned, we do have a Q&A pod, and we will address as many questions as time allows following the presentation. The webinar is being recorded, and it will be shared with you next week, along with a copy of the presentation. And a little bit different this year is that we're going to have some voluntary polling throughout the presentation, and we ask for your participation to make this somewhat interactive. We won't see how you're answering questions. We just get a consolidated list of how the questions were answered. Joining me on today's call is, and we can go to the next slide, is Jean Flubog, our 8A Stars 3 Procuring Contracting Officer. We also have Lou Little, our 8A Stars 3 Administrative Contracting Officer, Leslie Kirby, 8A Stars 3 Program Analyst, and Belinda DeVore is our local resident Zoom expert. Now we can move on to the next slide. Thank you, Belinda. So our year in review, today's slide will cover the topics shown. I'll kick things off with a year in review to highlight some of the new resources that we have developed in FY24 before handing it over to Jean to discuss some master contract performance. Lou's going to discuss the contract option before handing the reins over to Leslie to discuss CPRM reporting. We'll close out the webinar with a look at FY25 before wrapping things up and addressing any questions submitted through the Q&A pod. Our year in review will begin with task order data. Through FY24, 8A Stars 3 industry partners have generated 1,153 task order awards valued at $6.3 billion. You can see the number of task orders and their total estimated values for fiscal years 21, 22, 23, and 24. Now, you may notice a decrease in the number of task order awards issued in FY23 compared to FY24. The decrease in the number of task orders can be attributed to a decrease in the number of industry partners eligible to generate sole source task order awards. So, for example, there were 19 industry partners who graduated from the 8A program in fiscal year 23. Those 19 industry partners generated 22 task order awards. However, those same 19 industry partners only generated 6 task order awards in FY24. The total obligated value of all task order awards was at $2.9 billion, and the average task order value is $5.5 million, resulting from many sizable task orders. Lastly, FY24 produced 2 of the 5 largest task order awards. The largest Stars 3 task order award was awarded in FY24, and it's valued at $117 million. The second largest order in FY24 was valued at $111 million. Both of these orders were awarded by the Department of Health and Human Services. I think that now might be a good point to pause and launch our first poll question. So, Belinda, could you launch poll question number 1 to see how our industry partners are identifying 8A Stars 3 opportunities? And we'll give you guys about 10 or 15 seconds to reply. It is not even close. eBuy is dominating. Yeah, keep the answers coming in. We'd like to see it. Okay. Sounds good. Belinda, I think we can go ahead and wrap it up. I think I've got what I need. So 69% of you on the call today use GSA's eBuy as your primary source for identifying 8A Stars 3 opportunities. I'm glad we took that poll. I like that. We'll talk a little bit about that later on. So thank you, Belinda. I appreciate it. So now I'm going to move on to slide number 5. And we'll talk a little bit about sole source orders and competitive task order awards. But the first thing that I'm going to say is in FY24, the 8A Stars 3 team had formal one-on-one meetings with 100 industry partners with no task order awards. Many, and maybe even a majority of these industry partners expressed concern that there weren't many opportunities in GSA's eBuy. And those opportunities that did post were often too large for them. Now, I know that we've covered this in past meetings, but it's worth mentioning that more than 80% of Stars 3 task order awards are sole source. I also want to drive home the statistic that 85% of industry partners with a task order award also have a sole source award. Another way of looking at that data point, even though industry partners have the capability to win competitive orders, they still pursue sole source opportunities. Now, how does all this tie back to a limited number of opportunities in eBuy? Well, GSA's eBuy is primarily used for competitive task order requests, which are only about 20% of all task order awards. So if you're only monitoring eBuy, then you're not seeing 80% of the orders awarded against 8A Stars 3. As a reminder, 8A graduates are only eligible for competitive task order requests. So it makes sense that they keep a close eye on eBuy. But all of you who are still in the 8A program and eligible for sole source awards should not be focusing solely on eBuy. And if you do focus on eBuy, you need to be prepared to compete with some very seasoned industry partners, okay? So even though 70% of you said your primary source for identifying Stars 3 opportunities was GSA's eBuy, GSA's eBuy is really reserved for competitive opportunities, and you should probably be looking somewhere else, especially those of you still in the 8A program, okay? Thanks. Our next slide, we're going to talk about agency usage. We've sorted the agencies by the number of task orders awarded. The Department of Homeland Security holds the top spot with 209 task order awards, and the Department of Treasury jumped Health and Human Services in the number 2 spot with 138 task order awards. Wrapping up the 4th and 5th spots are USDA and Air Force. Now, I'll allow you to view the estimated value at your leisure, but what I want to bring attention to is the 3rd column that highlights the number of industry partners receiving task order awards from these agencies. You'll see that these top agencies are doing a pretty good job of distributing task order awards among several industry partners, which is a good indication of our industry partner experience and outreach. Now we'll transition to our delegations of procurement authority on slide number 7. DPAs have always been a popular topic in our universe, in the GWAC universe. We continued hosting live DPA training on the 2nd Tuesday of each month, and we'll continue to do so through FY25. We also have on-demand DPA training on YouTube for those customers who missed the live training and simply don't want to wait for the next session. Or, like me, they might just prefer self-paced training. If you're interested in what we tell our customers during DPA training, you can check out a recording that we made for our industry partners that's located in our Vendor Resource Center. And again, I'll show you a link to the Vendor Resource Center a little bit later on. But I'd like to take a second now also and ask you a polling question about DPAs. So Belinda, if you could launch our second question, how much importance does your firm place on knowing who holds an 8A Stars 3 DPA? This is great feedback. Keep it coming, guys. Yeah. Okay. So we've got about half of you guys that say some important. So sounds good, Belinda. I think I've got what I need. So we can go ahead and close.
Hey, Herman, there we go. Can we leave the poll results up a little bit? Several of the folks are asking just to see the poll results.
Okay, sure.
Or leave it up while you discuss what you want to cover here.
Yeah,
can you give us a thumbs up if folks are seeing the poll results now?
Okay, it looks like we got some raised hands. Sounds good. Thank you, Gene. So a little bit about delegations of procurement authority. You guys can all see the results, and about more than half of you guys say some importance. A little bit about DPAs is that we issued 340 delegations of procurement authority in FY24. And our top 5 agency DPA holders are Department of Homeland Security, DoD, GSA, Air Force, and Health and Human Services. You'll notice that 3 of our top 5 DPA holding agencies are also in the top 5 users that were shown in the previous slide. That's DHS, Health and Human Services, and Air Force. However, Treasury and USDA, both in the top 5 of task orders issued, are not on this list. And the Department of Health and Human Services, the #1 user of STARS 3, was not in the top 5 DPA holder list last year. So let this be a reminder to focus on creating DPA holders and not chasing them. For example, a capture plan focused on the Department of Defense based on the number of delegations is probably not the best approach. Although we've issued 146 DPAs, it has resulted in only 62 task order awards. By a show of hands, how many of you guys are attending this PMR for the first time? Okay, so awesome. A lot of you guys. So what I'm going to do, since we have so many newbies, I'm going to tell my story. And some of my team, they cringe when I tell this story, but I think it gives a really, really good perspective about DPA. So I tell a story of 2 shoe salesmen from different companies who go visit a remote village to sell shoes. Upon arrival at the village and looking around a bit, the first shoe salesman calls his boss and says, "Hey, we've wasted our time. No one wears shoes in this village, and I'll be heading home shortly." The second shoe salesman visits the same village and calls his boss and says, "We've hit the jackpot. No one wears shoes in this village." Now, I often tell this story when I talk about delegations of procurement authority because the perception often points people in the wrong direction. I would encourage you to forget about who has a DPA and focus on the right customer. Then encourage them to obtain their DPA, which can be done quickly and at any time. Remember, any contracting officer can obtain a delegation of procurement authority by attending training, watching the YouTube videos I mentioned, reviewing the ordering guide, or taking online training courses. Don't let a customer slip away because they don't have a DPA, okay? You find the right customer and we'll get them the DPA. Thanks. Now we'll transition a little bit over to industry partner performance. There have been 414 industry partners who have received task order awards. Congratulations. 313 single business entities and 101 joint ventures, which is pretty proportional to the total percentage of JVs and single business entities on the STARS 3 GWAC. 261 industry partners with task order awards have received 2 or more awards. This number jumps out to me because we're not talking about 10 or 20% of our industry partners with more than 1 award. We're talking about more than 60%. I think that most industry partners on this call with 2 or more task order awards would agree that the first one was the hardest one. And lastly, there were 237 rising stars, which we're very proud of. The term rising stars is used for a couple of different reasons, or a couple of different ways, I should say. You'll notice that we refer to rising stars in our monthly snapshot to identify those industry partners receiving their first 8A STARS 3 task order award. Internally, we use this term to identify industry partners who received their first GSA vehicle order through STARS 3. For example, a STARS 3 industry partner with multiple GSA contract vehicles would be considered a rising star if they received their first GSA order through STARS 3. We're very proud of this metric, and it shows that STARS 3, even when placed alongside other GSA vehicles, continues to provide ample opportunities to small disadvantaged businesses. So to wrap all this up, 237 of the 414 industry partners with task order awards received their first GSA task order through STARS 3. Lastly, 58 industry partners received their first award in FY24, and I'd like to recognize them now. I won't read through their names, but we'll take a few seconds to recognize it. Nearly 60 industry partners getting their first task order award in contracts year 3 and 4 demonstrates discipline and a commitment to success. For those of you who have not received task order awards, it's not too late, as demonstrated by these firms. The 8A Stars 3 team hit the road again in FY24 and attended several events. We started off the year by attending the National Small Business Conference in Atlanta, where we had a chance to meet with several of you during our meet and greet. We also attended the Government Procurement Conference in Washington, D.C., provided virtual Stars 3 DPA training during the inaugural Joint Civilian Agency Small Business Training hosted by Treasury. We traveled to Seattle and delivered training at NCMA's World Congress. And just last month, I had the opportunity to attend the ACT-IAC Small Business Government-Wide IT Category Forum and sit on a panel alongside other best-in-class contract vehicles. Here are some photos from the 3 of those events that I mentioned. I'm curious, how many of you on today's call attended these same events? We've got a poll question coming up. And if you met with the team or you're able to attend these events, let us know. All right, Belinda, I think we could maybe end the poll and go ahead and show the results. Okay. So the majority of you didn't attend any of those events. We got about 20% who did, and also but didn't meet with the Stars 3 team, and 6% who did meet with the Stars 3 team. I'll go ahead and let you know that in our monthly snapshot, we identify all of the events that we're going to be going to. And so if you're also going to be there, please go ahead and let us know. Send an email and say, hey, I'm going to be at the National Small Business Conference in New Orleans in February, and we'll set some time to go ahead and meet with you. So we look forward to do that. So again, please take advantage of that. Thanks all. We'll move on. So the next couple of slides are going to talk about some of the resources that we developed in FY24. The 8A Stars 3 Resource Center, and I referred to it a little bit earlier on where this presentation is going to be held, is located at bsc.gsa.gov/S3. This first of its kind GWAC resource was launched through a collaboration between our team and also GSA's multiple award schedules program. The site really is a repository for dozens of 8A Stars 3 resources to include listen and learn recordings with successful 8A Stars 3 industry partners, contract resources such as a welcome kit, marketing material to include brochures and signs, monthly snapshots, and recordings of industry partner trainings such as this PMR. So a month from now, when you can't locate this PMR recording or you think you heard something and you want to listen to it again, you just need to visit the 8A Stars 3 Resource Center. Some specific examples of what you'll be able to find and download include, all right. Yep, it includes our 8A Stars 3 Best in Class flyer. We also have an example of the Department of Treasury training that we did last year. There we go. Yep, we can go one more, Belinda. And then lastly, like this, a short commercial that I encourage industry partners to embed within their websites, or how I use it, I actually embed it into emails when I send emails to potential customers. So just a reminder that the Resource Center is a great resource that you should consider sharing with everyone on your team, and especially new folks who will be working on the 8A Stars 3 GWAC. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and transition the presentation over to Gene, who's going to talk about the master contract performance during contract year 3, which ended on July 1, 2024. All yours, Gene.
Hey, Herm, thanks a lot. Appreciate the great recap of all the amazing things that our Stars 3 industry partners have accomplished this year. And I'm really excited to see what fiscal year 25 brings. As this slide says, I'm Gene Fluvog, the 8A Stars 3 CO. And while Herman's comments have focused primarily on task order activity, my part of the PMR is going to address performance from the master contract perspective. I plan to discuss several less than encouraging performance trends that we've seen, and then I'll offer a few ideas as well on how to reverse those. And I'll wrap up my portion of the PMR by highlighting some keys to successful performance at the master contract, and then pass it off to Lou, who's going to talk about the upcoming option. But before we begin, let's do another poll. Belinda, can you bring up the poll on subcontract reporting, please? And why don't we go ahead and share the results? Okay, so in case we've heard that a couple of folks are having trouble seeing the poll results, so the poll says that we believe over 80% of the folks submitted their annual subcontract report on time. About 37%, I'm sorry, 20% said that we were over 80% on time, 37% between 50 and 79%, and 36% said less than 50%. And there's even a few folks that don't believe there is a subcontract reporting requirement. Well, the fact of the matter is that the STARS 3 GWAC was deliberately designed with a very limited number of deliverables. And the annual subcontract report is one of those deliverables. If you haven't done so lately, or if you've recently been assigned responsibility for managing your firm's 8A STARS 3 GWAC, please take a few minutes after today's PMR to review that contract, especially sections F, G, and H. Also make sure that you or someone else in your organization is actively monitoring your STARS 3 email address. That's that STARS 3 at your mail domain address that's required of every industry partner. Finally, please also ensure that the team here does have your correct contact information, and you can do that by going out to the STARS 3 webpage and downloading our industry partners spreadsheet and verifying your data. So back to that subcontracting question. The reality is that only 559, or 51%, of all STARS 3 contract holders submitted this year's subcontract report on time. And even after a reminder message and several notices about this reporting requirement in the newsletter, 25% as of this morning have still not completed that annual reporting requirement. Unfortunately, this is actually an improvement over reporting timeliness last year, but clearly there's still room for us to do a whole lot better. For those industry partners who did submit their annual contract deliverables on time, I appreciate that, and I thank you for doing so. The second sub-bullet there is going to talk about CPRM reporting. And once you receive a task order award, the monthly reporting requirements at sections G17 and G18 begin at the end of the month following that award. Leslie's going to cover how to report in the contract payment reporting module, or CPRM, in greater detail. So all I want to say is I want to give a brief explanation of why we ask you to upload contract documents such as the award document and the statement of work, and then contract mods. We do this because it enables us to conduct a post-award review of every task order. And we do that to identify out-of-scope work, awards that are missing the required CAF line item, and awards by agency COs who are not properly delegated. And ultimately, what we're trying to do is head off problem areas before they fully develop. The second disturbing trend involves delivery failures on emails. With 1,100 industry partners, and each one of those industry partners having at least 2 email addresses, you can imagine when we send out a distribution to everybody, just how many delivery failures we have. That stars 3 at your mail domain email address is a contractually required email address for you to maintain. And if you're not receiving at least 1 or 2 emails a month from the stars 3 team at that address, then something's wrong on your end, and I would ask you to research that through your IT side. Additionally, it's important that you're reading or you're receiving emails at that address, because that is one of the ways that agencies are allowed to distribute fair opportunity notices. And there are several solicitations issued each month using that distribution list. In fact, the Department of Housing and Urban Development released one just this morning. During this past year, we've also seen a noticeable increase in the number of companies who have notified us that they have either already or are considering selling their company. Some have even asked what they need to do in order to sell their stars 3 contract. The fact of the matter is that a contract is not an asset that can be bought or sold. You can certainly sell your company, but understand that changing ownership in a company that holds an 8A contract can often have far-reaching and often very adverse unintended consequences. Before you move too far down the road on any sort of an ownership change, I would strongly encourage you to review 13 CFR 124-515 and also 13 CFR 124-518, and then discuss any potential ownership change with your supporting district office and business opportunity specialists. Unfortunately, we have had to terminate about a dozen stars 3 contract holders because the company went through an ownership change without doing the proper advanced coordination with the Small Business Administration. The final 2 trends on this slide are primarily government sort of problems, but I would ask your help in both of these areas. Herman already talked about delegations of procurement authority, and we continue to see awards made by agency COs who are not trained and have not been delegated to issue orders against our GWAC. And it shouldn't come as any surprise that those are the awards that are frequently not structured correctly, or they're missing a CAF CLIN, or they're for work that is out of scope. Additionally, we continue to see awards without the contract access fee identified as a separate line item. And that's a requirement again at section B6 and B8 of the master contract. Agencies are required to pay a fee of 0.75% anytime they issue an award against a GSA contract. And there have been a few industry partners who, because this was not identified clearly in their offer, ended up paying that fee out of pocket because the agency was either unwilling or unable to put additional funding on the task. Can we move to the next slide, please? So these next 2 slides are going to cover some recommendations on how to improve your performance at the master contract level and how to help the stars 3 team more efficiently assist you in being successful on this contract. As I mentioned during last year's PMR, we're all very aware of how much value the 8A community places on holding a stars 3 contract. And we understand that many companies see this as a key to entering or expanding your position in the federal marketplace. But you must know which lock this key will open and which ones it will not. As Herman mentioned, about 80% of the work that's been awarded to date has been awarded on a sole source basis. And so if you're waiting on opportunities to appear in eBuy, then you're missing out on a lot of the work that's been awarded. Additionally, while it's great that over 400 industry partners have received 1 or more awards, that also means that there are hundreds of you out there that have not received that single task order award over $100,000, which is putting you at risk as far as your eligibility for the option is concerned. Having a good understanding of the terms and conditions of your contract is essential to your ability to educate federal agencies and those contracting officers on the benefits of issuing orders against your contract as part of your self-marketing plan. And several of you, while Herman was talking about DPAs and awards, asked, well, where do we look for sole source opportunities? The fact is that many of them are never going to get published in any platform. And you learn about them by doing market research and looking at expiring existing STARS task orders, or by leveraging those personal contacts you may have with agency COs and program folks through other work that you're already performing. But ultimately, you really need to be able to explain the type of work that can or cannot be done on STARS 3, which is covered in Section C. And you also want to be able to talk about the different types of allowable task order awards, which is covered in Section B7. One of the great things about the STARS 3 vehicle is that it allows ancillary support as part of the overall IT solution being procured. And this means that it's sort of a one-stop shop for contracting officers when their requirement includes predominantly IT services, but it could include things like IT hardware or software, or even non-IT labor. So, as I said, if you haven't done so lately, please take a few minutes after today's webinar to review particularly sections B and C of your contract. Before I discuss contract pricing, let's do another quick poll. Belinda, can you launch the labor rate poll, please? So the question is, how can you increase or raise your awarded labor rates? Can we go ahead and publish the poll results, Belinda?
There's still several voting coming in.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so for those folks that are having trouble seeing the results, 75% of you said to submit an economic price adjustment request. And so 75% of you, unfortunately, are wrong. There is no EPA clause in the STARS 3 contract. However, the second two responses, that awarded labor rates don't apply to your fixed price awards, is true. And the third answer is really the best answer to this question, and that agency COs are allowed to approve higher labor rates above your awarded rates in certain situations. And you'll find the discussion in Section B that those higher pricing and award rates are possible. Generally, your pricing is established and allows agency to include work up to the secret level, performed in CONUS or in non-foreign work areas. But in Section B12, you will see that agency COs are allowed to establish separate rates for foreign work area. And there are certain situations, such as when work is above the secret level, or other factors, that the agency CO is allowed to approve higher labor rates. The final part of the contract, you backed up a slide. Could we go to 16, please? Thanks. So the final part of the contract that I want to discuss is the master contract ordering period, which runs from the 2nd of July to the 1st of July the following year, regardless of when your STARS 3 contract was awarded. And this is important because this drives how you can price things because your labor rates are escalated at the end of every contract year. And it also drives when your annual reporting requirements are due. For those industry partners who are eligible for and do receive the option, the ordering period will extend from out to July 1st of 2029, so 3 additional years after 2026, and performance of work at the task order level will be permitted all the way out until July of 2034. Next slide, thank you. So what do you do when you need some help? Well, the fact of the matter is that the STARS 3 team is your best resource for contract questions or contract performance issues. And the easiest way to reach us is that s3@gsa.gov email address. The fact is, we really can't help you with technical login issues with either the Assist or the VSC help desk. So if you're having trouble with CPRM or eBuy, please contact the appropriate help desk. If you don't, however, get a timely response or resolution from the help desk, do escalate that issue to us, and we'll see if we can't get somebody to respond to you. And now just a couple of quick thoughts on email etiquette. Please try and include your contract number either in the subject line or in the body of your message. This allows us to quickly identify who's writing into us, and it helps us get to the correct contract file quickly. It also gives us the ability to search within our mail server for any related correspondence that we may have already had with you. Please do not ever reply to messages from or do a reply all to messages sent from STARS 3 awardees at gsa.gov. That address is a mail list that sends the message to every STARS 3 industry partner, all 1,100 of you. Now, every message sent from that mail list is managed and specifically released by our team so that you don't get spammed by folks who catch on to that email address. But when we see those coming as a response to an agency inquiry or solicitation, those messages are simply deleted along with the spam that we do get at that mailbox. So please, when you're responding to an RFI or an RFP that came out using that mail distribution list, please be sure that you only reply to the agency CO. In just a minute here, I'm going to hand things off to Lou so she can discuss the option. But before I do, let's do one final poll. Belinda, would you open the poll on option eligibility? And go ahead and publish whenever the responses drop off, please, Belinda. All right. Great response there. 82% of you said that all of those items exiting the 8A program, re-representing as other than small, or having an unpaid CAF balance will have an adverse effect on your eligibility. And that is true. So Lou, podium's all yours.
Thanks, Gene. Good afternoon, everybody. We realize that July of 2026 seems like a long time from now, but the reality is it'll be here before we know it. Section H.12 lists several things that will make you ineligible to receive the option. They include the items listed on this slide, and these requirements are not negotiable. If your firm has exited the 8A program or is no longer a small business, if you have subcontracted 50.1% of the work on your task orders, if you're not up to date on task order reporting, or if you have an unpaid CAF obligation, you will not get the option. In early FY26, you should expect to see a number of option-related messages. These will include the requirement to re-represent your business size and confirm that you are compliant with limitations on subcontracting. Labor rates for industry partners who do get the option will be escalated for contract years 6 through 13 as outlined in section B.13 of your master contract. So exactly how many industry partners will get the option? It's really too early to say for sure. Of the 1,093 current contract holders, over 500 will exit the 8A program on or before July 1, 2026. These companies will not get the option, and there's really nothing they can do to change that fact. There are over 350 companies who are at risk of not receiving the option because they haven't met the $100,000 minimum contract sales requirement. So we expect the total number of STARS 3 contract holders after the option to be somewhere between 250 and 550 industry partners. If you haven't met the minimum sales requirement yet, or if you've met the sales requirement but are concerned that one of the other criteria will keep you from getting the option, please reach out to the STARS 3 team and we can review your contract file and discuss possible ways to resolve any issues that we see. In the next part of our webinar, Leslie will be talking about reporting and CPRM.
All right, thank you. My name is Leslie Kirby, and I'm a program analyst with our GWAC group. You can go to the next slide. So section F.4 deliverables cites the following requirements. Order awards and modification data should be reported in the CPRM within 30 calendar days after the month the document is signed by the ordering contracting officer. Invoice data is due within 30 calendar days after the month the invoice is paid. If no invoices were paid in a particular month, then 0 invoice data should be entered into the system. CAF should be remitted within 30 calendar days after the month in which it was paid. At times, the GWAC program team may reach out to request data corrections or additions. These corrections are due within 10 calendar days of notification or as directed by our program group. You can change the slide. Within 6 months after the task order period of performance ends, the task order should be verified and validated in order to facilitate closeout. The FPDS to CPRM auto feed is on for STARS 3. However, you should check to make sure that they do push over and that all of your data is correct. Also, the fields in FPDS and CPRM are not an exact match, and several mandatory fields will need to be completed. You will also need to upload any award documents for initial awards and any modifications. Each paid invoice entry in CPRM requires a CAF CLIN. CAF should be paid on each invoice, and the CPRM automatically adds the CAF CLIN per invoice entry. And as discussed in the previous slide, invoices are to be reported within 30 days after the month that they were paid. And if no paid invoices are received in a particular month, 0 invoice data should be reported. And if you need to delete a previously entered 0 invoice, you can contact the reporting inquiries box at reportinginquiries@gsa.gov. Please make sure that your order is reported in the CPRM. If you do not see it, you can add it. It might be that the order is not in FPDS yet, as DoD orders can take up to 90 days to show up in FPDS. Don't forget to upload any supporting documents such as initial award, PWS or statement of work, and modifications into the CPRM. These uploaded documents, as Jean said, help in researching when questions arise about data that has been provided within the CPRM. Again, don't forget that reporting is required monthly, and zero invoice data should be entered when no paid invoices are received. The CPRM calculates an estimated CAF amount on each invoice entered. This is the amount of CAF that should be on your invoice. Some helpful tips: the CAF line item amount column displays the amount of CAF that you have reported on your invoice. The estimated CAF amount column is the amount the CPRM calculates based on your invoiced amount. These two amounts should match. Additional reports and training information can be found on the CPRM homepage. And if paying via pay.gov, please use the GSA GWAC ID 470001B1. Also ensure that your financial institution accepts payments to this ID number, as this can be a reason for rejected payments. For CPRM technical support and registration, you can call 877-472-4877 or email the aasbs.helpdesk@gsa.gov for those questions. For CPRM reporting questions, please email the GWAC program team at reportinginquiries@gsa.gov. If no questions, thank you. And now back to Herman.
All right, thank you, Leslie,
Mhm.
Lou, and also Jean. Thanks all of you guys. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about on the horizon, which are going to display some of the activities that we have planned for the next year. We plan to continue voluntary one-on-one meetings in January with those industry partners who have not met the $100,000 minimum contract sales requirement. We're already in contract year 4, and we want to do whatever we can to help our industry partners meet the requirement. Don't worry, we're not going to get on to you for not having sales. We're going to encourage you, share resources, suggest strategies, and offer ourselves to your customers. Now, I'm going to keep it real with you. We sent out 375 email invitations, and only 110, or less than 30% of those industry partners, accepted the invitation. July 2026 is right around the corner, and I can assure you that Jean is not going to exercise the option of any firm who has not yet met the minimum contract sales requirement. A 30-minute call with our team may just create the spark that lights your fire. By a show of hands, can we see how many of you on the call attended those one-on-one meetings that we've had over the past 3 or 4 months? Thank you for your responses. It looks like upwards of 60 to 70 folks. We also look forward to recording more listen and learn sessions with industry partners who won their first task order award in FY24, and updating our GWAC sales dashboard to display work types. We think that displaying work types will help our customers see the capabilities of our industry partners and assist them with market research. As mentioned earlier, we'll continue hosting monthly DPA training sessions on the second Tuesday of each month. We plan to attend the National Small Business Conference in New Orleans in February, and we're going to begin hosting CPRM guidance meetings for those industry partners who win task order awards, so that they understand how to enter the task order awards in CPRM. Slide 28. So at this time, I'd like to turn it back to Jean for closing remarks. But before transitioning any questions that were submitted, I have a bit of news to share with you all. Effective November 17th, I will no longer be the 8A Stars 3 Program Manager. The experiences that I have gained in this role have positioned me to be selected as a Quality and Compliance Program Specialist in the IT Services Business and Operations Division. I'll still have my same email address and be working with GWACs, but in a different capacity. I'm honored to have managed the 8A Stars 3 GWAC, and this role has been the highlight of my career. I've enjoyed working with all of you and will be watching you blossom from afar. Joel Schatz will serve as the 8A Stars 3 Program Manager. Joel has been a member of the 8A Stars 3 team for the past year, and I have total confidence that the team will continue building on all of the great things that we've accomplished. So, with that being said, I'd like to thank you for the memories. I would also like to thank Belinda DeVore for her support in making the PMR success. It really takes a skilled person to execute those polls, change slides, show results, and all of that fun stuff. So thank you, Belinda. The entire 8A Stars 3 team appreciates it. And lastly, I'd like to wish everyone a happy Veterans Day, including several members of the 8A Stars 3 team who have served. I know Jean and Leslie both served in the in the Army, so thank you both. On to you, Jean, for any final thoughts before we look at question and answer.